not joined.
Can you see my PPT?
Yeah, visible.
Good evening all. I am Dr. Kishore from Mehta Hospital. I am going. Hello. I am going to present today on congenital nephrotic syndrome. The session is moderated by Dr. Lakshmi, HOD of the Neonatology at Dr. Mehta's Hospital, Chennai. Case detail: we had one baby with a maternal age of 32 years, married since 10 years. It was a non-consanguine marriage. The mother was G2P1L1 with A positive blood group and no family history of any congenital or inherited disorder previously. The baby already had one male sibling, which was emergency LSS at 38 weeks because of the non-progression, and both the antenatal and postnatal period for that baby was uneventful. At present, that baby is 8-year-old live and healthy male child. In our case, the antenatal events were uneventful. Antenatal scan, we reviewed all are normal. No issue of fever at trimester. No antenatal steroid. Baby received mother received 1 dose of antenatal steroid, and because of the fetal distress and with the previous history of LCS, delivery happened at 36 weeks plus 6 days. It was a late preterm, 36 plus 6 days, female baby, 3.2 kg by emergency LCS at Mehta Hospital. Baby had a weak cry after birth and was a non-vigorous and with meconium stent liquor and was a limp at birth. Baby requires tactile stimulation. After vigorous tactile stimulation, baby's cry improved and Apgar score was 4 and at 1 minute, following 7 at the 5 minute. Afterward, the baby developed tachypnea along with the retractions and the Silverman-Anderson score was 3/10. Baby received delivery room CPAP and was shifted to the NICU. The course was that on the day 1, baby was normothermic, respiratory rate was 80 per minute, heart rate was 140 per minute, saturation was 96 on oxygen hood, 5 liter per minute flow. Peripheral pulses are well felt and there was no features of shock. On examination, baby had a wide open AF with a wide sutural separation. Ectopic suture were palpable along with the high arch palate. There was no facial dysmorphism or neurocutaneous marker. On CNS examination, solar routing and Grams reflex were poor and the Moro's reflex was incomplete. Baby had a like posture with reduced tone in all four. Power was 2/5 with maximum observed power, and the waist shows flexion deformity of the fingers, and the contracture was present at bilateral knee and the elbow joint. Knee jerk could not be elicited, and no fasciculation were observed. Respiratory system wise, baby had a subcostal retractions with SS score 3/10. Bilateral air entry was equal, and normal vesicular breath sound were heard. On the X-ray, there was a well expanded lung. So we continued on the oxygen support by hood and the gradually distress settled down and baby was weaned to the room air on day 3 of life. Cardiac examination and abdominal examination were unremarkable. On day 2 of the life, baby was noted to have anasarca with pure urine output. Serum had a low serum sodium. It was a 130 initially and on subsequent again dropped down to 125 and a raising serum creatinine. First was 1.5, it again raised to 1.7 on serial monitoring. Ultrasound shows no reduced intravascular volume. So on despite the baby had a edema, but considering third space loss, we had given the NS bolus along with the diuretic, and the baby's urine output improved with the above measure. We continued the conservative management and the UAG abdomen was done that shows there is a cholecystitis with multiple caliculi with a sludge and bilateral rhinomegaly with altered ecostructure. This was the initial babies having contractures at the elbow, knee joint. There's a flexion of the fingers are there. the white separation suture was present, and the baby was lethargic, but the sensorium was normal. Baby was the power hardly is 2/5. So the investigation was on day 1 of life, CBC we had done, that was the complete normal. On day 2, the CRP negative, but the sodium was on lower side. Baby had hyponatremia. Then we the serially monitoring, hyponatremia is persistently present. The potassium initially was the high, and it has subsided on further. Creatinine value was 1.5 initially. It is further raising to 1.76. And on day 4, it was 1.77. CPK enzyme, we had done it initially, it was high, 3246 was the initial value, but on subsequent count, it dropped down to 487. The serum total protein we had done at the end of day 2 of life, that was the 3.22 on lower side with the albumin 1.74. Total on the subsequent following also, the serum protein is low with the hypoalbuminemia persistently present. So the initially under day 3, we had a baby with a perinatal depression, with a delayed transition, with acute kidney injury, with low urine output, with persistent hyponatremia, and despite of the giving NS 3% NaCl supplement, babies continue to have a hyponatremia, cholecystitis, rhinomegaly, and orthogyropsis congenita. So on further, baby persistently to have a low urine output and the edema. So after continuing consulting with the nephrologist, IV furosemide infusion was given for 24 hours. After that, the urine output was improved. So the furosemide infusion gradually tapered and stopped. Weight and the blood pressure was strictly monitored during this period. Baby, despite on restricted fluid, constantly maintaining weight. No, there is no any loss of weight. The blood pressure was the normal. Repeat ultrasound showed the cholecystitis with choledocholecystitis and the thrombus in the left portal vein with no obstruction. There is no any history of umbilical vein catheterization. Bilateral rhinomegaly with the altered ecostructures and the cyst in a right kidney probable to rule out the autosomal recessive polycystic kidney disease. So our differential was after the 4th day was a moderate to severe HI, and that is causing the AKI or the congenital myopathy or the uncontrolled diabetes mellitus in the mother, which was got unnoticed, or the orthogyropsis congenita associated symptoms, or we are dealing with the congenital nephropathy. The point for the favor of moderate to severe HI was low Apgar at 1 minute, hypotonia in all 4 limbs, and with the history of fetal distress. But the initial ABG suggests no any excess base excess or the metabolic acidosis. Sensorium was the normal. No convulsion. Neurosonogram we had done, that was the normal. MRI brain study has been done, that also shows the normal study. For the uncontrolled diabetes mellitus, the paucity of movement was present. Might be the baby also had a fetal akinesia and the anasarca, but there is no documented high CVG value for the mother during all antenatal period, and the mother's HbA1c which was within the normal range. Liquor was a normal. Then we thought of any orthogyropsis congenita associated symptoms. The point for favoring was the flexion deformity at the finger and the contracture at the knee and elbow joint. But the contractures are improved with the passive stretching. Invertogram reported normal. Skeletal X-ray survey was normal. No history of any oligo or polyhydramnios in the mother. Still, the possibility of orthogyropsis congenita is in. And the last differential was a congenital nephropathy. Baby had a persistent anasarca and a liver function test to normal enzyme level with hypoalbuminemia. In view of oliguria, hypoalbuminemia, and the edema, congenital nephrotic syndrome was suspected and investigated. Further investigation, we have done the 24 hours urinary protein that was more than 1 gram per day. Low serum albumin with hyperlipidemia, raised cholesterol, LDL, triglyceride, and high urine protein to creat ratio. And so the clinically baby fits into congenital nephrotic syndrome. To search for the etiology, we went to see the torch profile for the both baby and the mother, which was normal. Thyroid function test was done, that was the normal. To know the genetic cause for the nephropathy, whole exome sequencing analysis seen. We examined the eye screening was normal and the baby passed autocaustic emission test. So on day 6 to day 7, urinary osmolality was 206. The urine albumin was 4 plus, that denote of more than 2 gram per liter. Spot urine creatinine ratio 390 point, urine protein is 390.6 mg per dl, whereas the urine protein creatinine ratio is 24.6. While it's in nephrotic, anything more than 2 goes in nephrotic range of urine protein creatinine ratio. Total cholesterol was 181. The normal range was 81 to 147, while the triglyceride is 218, normal range of 150 to 200. 24 hours urine protein was 1109 milligram, while the 24-hour urinary creatinine was 24.16. There was no hematuria, no pus cell. Complement C3 level was normal. So the clinically baby had a congenital nephrotic syndrome. So after consulting with the pediatric nephrologist, in view of persistent hypoalbuminemia, IV albumin infusion has been started along with the diuretic infusion. Albumin we are given with the dose of 1 gram per kg over the 4 hours. We have continued serially monitoring the albumin level. It is increased just after the transfusion, but again there is a persistent hypoalbuminemia. So the IV albumin continued every alternate day for the baby required during 4 times. Then we slowly started on the OGT feed followed by the Palladi. We fortified the feed with the HMF. We added sodium syrup bicarbonate in view of metabolic acidosis and the oral calcium and vitamin D supplement. After once the baby is on full feed, we added aspirin to prevent progress of further thrombotic event. So the outcome was, with the all above mentioned measure, baby was symptomatically well and tolerated feed well, and we discharged the baby on day 20 of life. But baby was readmitted on day 30 of life in the shock with the complaint of loose stool, poor feeding, and lethargy. And the baby was in the shock with hepatomegaly, renomegaly, and in severe respiratory distress. This time, baby required inotropes, respiratory support of HFNC. Initially, followed by the investigation showed raised creatinine to 2.4 milligram per dl with hypoalbuminemia, hyponatremia. Baby managed symptomatically with antibiotic, diuretic, albumin infusion. On subsequent, baby developed hypertension that has been required amlodipine to abort it. Initial septic workup was the negative and blood culture shows no growth. But unfortunately, baby developed bacterial peritonitis on day 8 of the admission. And despite all attempts, baby could not able to overcome from the illness and succumb to death on day 14th of the life. After that, the genetic analysis report came that shows it is a VT1 gene mutation with the exome 8 location with heterozygous autosomal dominant inheritance. So most likely suggestive of Denny-Dash syndrome or Frazier syndrome or the Wilms tumor. So now, like what is the congenital nephrotic syndrome? Congenital nephrotic syndrome is present is diabetic edema within the 3 months of life associated with heavy proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, hypogammaglobulinemia, hypercoagulability, and hyperlipidemia. Etiology-wise, there are genetic and non-genetic. Genetic defect include the most common one type of Finnish type, NHPS1 gene, followed by NHPS2, VT1 gene, PLCE1, and LAM2. While the infection, congenital syphilis, while toxoplasmosis, congenital cytomegalo infection, HIV infection, hepatitis B virus infection, or the congenital rubella infection. Some non-report also reported with the maternal SLE, maternal mercury poisoning, renal vein thrombosis, and neonatal alloimmunization. What in the congenital, what all the history or the perinatal event that are pointing towards the congenital nephrotic syndrome? The placental weight below the 25% of the newborn's weight, enlarged prenatal knuckle translucency, fetal edema, increasing amniotic fluid alpha fetoprotein, and the oligohydramnios. Then the family history of congenital nephrotic syndrome, consanguinity marriage, early infantile death, neurological or kidney disease of the infancy, patient's history of swelling and the poor bone. On physical examination, signs of the edema like pericardial effusion, pleural effusion, and the ascites. Our baby, though not having any prenatal or perinatal history, had a swelling at birth, and there was a huge ascites. So congenital nephrotic syndrome, the Finnish type, which is the most commonly, can be diagnosed in the second trimester by elevated maternal serum alpha fetoprotein level. After in the baby, the TSH may be the normal initially, but in the subsequent, the TSH level will increase, history of hypothyroidism. On blood counts, levels of the sodium, chloride, magnesium, which for our baby was normal 1.9, protein, total protein, albumin, creatinine, urea, cholesterol, hypertriglyceridemia, all these are the needed. Other factor requires serum IgG level showing hypoglycemia, serum level of the phosphate, ionized calcium, so hypocalcemia, hypovitaminosis, alkaline phosphatase, and PTH. Serum urea and creatine levels are variable. Renal function may be the normal in the first few months. Some babies may develop within the next, may discharge well at the birth and going to develop within the first month or the 2 months of the life. The serum analysis demonstrate hyperalbuminemia and low thyroid hormone level. Urine analysis demonstrate proteinuria, hematuria, leukocyturia with negative urine culture. Ultrasound of the kidney may be the shows normal or the larger side, but the renal cortex is always hyperechogenic. Cardiac ultrasound may show the effusion and left ventricular mass. In this case, there was normal cardiac studies. Kidney biopsy demonstrate microcystic dilatation of proximal tubule, increased mesangial hypercellularity with a mild increase in mesangial matrix in light microscope. Electron microscopy demonstrate assessment of the podocyte of the food process. The modality of choice for the precise congenital nephrotic syndrome, the Finnish type, is genetic analysis by detection of the mutation in NHPS1 gene, which code for the protein in nephrin, which is the, the principal protein in the podocytes. The treatment modality for the congenital nephrotic syndrome. One is the albumin infusion, 20% albumin infusion, 3 to 4 gram per kg per day of the albumin we needed. For like all the pediatric nephrotic syndrome, the immunosuppression with the steroid are not mostly helpful in congenital nephrotic syndrome, and they are not the first choice of the drugs. Followed after the albumin infusion, next important aspect is of nutrition, with increasing the protein intake to 3 gram per kg per day, lipid supplementation, hypercaloric diet up to 130 kilocalorie per kg per day with vitamin A, D, E, and water soluble vitamin supplementation and calcium and magnesium supplements. For in our case, to increase the calories and the protein, we added the fortified the milk with the human milk fortifier. Medications may be required, thyroxine supplementation, antiproteinuric drug that reduce the protein excretion are the ACE inhibitor and endomethacin. Other drugs that are helpful are the anticoagulations like warfarin, aspirin. We use the aspirin in this baby. Parental antibiotic when the bacterial infection is suspected. And the definitive treatment is nephrectomy. And followed by the peritoneal dialysis. When the baby is of 7 kg of weight, generally bilateral nephrectomy is done and then start on peritoneal dialysis. Renal transplantation with the extra peritoneal placement of the kidney graft is performed later when the child's weight more than 9 kg. The success rate for the renal transplantation is good in case of congenital nephrotic syndrome. So after the clinical findings, with the confirmation with the laboratory, 2 things are remaining for the congenital nephrotic syndrome to make it as a complete tetrad. One is genetic analysis and the renal biopsy. The most difficult feature is the histology of a Finnish type is irregular microcystic dilatation of proximal tubule. The glomeruli are normal or may show matrix expansions and mesangial hypercellularity. In Danny-Dash syndrome, renal biopsy mostly reveal diffuse mesangial sclerosis of the glomeruli. In Frazier syndrome, renal biopsy shows focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. In case of congenital syphilis, membranous nephropathy is the common finding in the renal biopsy. In case of congenital nephrotic syndrome caused by the toxoplasmosis, diffuse mild increase in mesangial cells and extensive glomerulosclerosis is also common. In case of CNV infection, diffuse mesangial sclerosis often seen on histological examination on renal biopsies. Some cases of the Finnish type may show the minimal change disease. Unfortunately, in our case, we couldn't able to do the renal biopsy as the parent refused to give the consent for the same. There are a lot of many genetics or the genes are involved in congenital nephrotic syndrome. Most of the cases are because of NPHS1 nephrin mutation, which is inherited as autosomal recessive. Then the other one is the NPHS2 that is code for the podosin protein followed by the LAMP2 and PLC1. In autosomal dominant variant, Wilms tumor suppressor gene VT1 causes this, the congenital nephrotic syndrome, may lead to Frazier syndrome, WAGR syndrome, and Danny-Dash syndrome. And then the mutation, which is still not identified, associated with the cerebral lesion and the nephropathy, Galway-Mayotte syndrome. So, in our case, we had a Wilms tumor suppressor gene 1 mutation on chromosome number 11. So next three disease was Danny-Dash syndrome, WAGR syndrome, and the Frazier syndrome. Out of this, the Danny-Dash syndrome shows the congenital nephropathy, Wilms tumor, and the DSD in the affected males. Most of the affected females are genitalia as normal. As our baby was a female case, the genitalia was normal. Most cases of DSD are not inherited from the parents and occurred as a new mutation. So despite of the autosomal dominant, parents may are the normal. Kidney biopsy to document the diffuse mesangial sclerosis. In Wilms tumor, there is a constellation of VAGR syndrome, constellation of Wilms tumor, aniridia, genitourinary abnormalities, and the mental retardation. In most of the cases, we get 2 of all 4 combinations. The closest DD, another of the Danny-Dash syndrome, is Frazier syndrome. That is characterized by congenital nephropathy, female genitalia in individual with normal male chromosome and underdeveloped gonad, and that may become cancerous. Some point that is in our case, to differentiate between Danny-Dash syndrome and Frazier syndrome, we need a genetic analysis with the karyotyping. But as the parents refused any further investigation, we couldn't able to perform the karyotypes. So the differentiating point between Danny-Dash syndrome and Frazier syndrome is the presentation. The Frazier is will present little later compared with the Danny-Dash, and the severity. Severity of the Danny-Dash are generally more severe compared with the Frazier syndrome. The prognosis of congenital nephrotic syndrome is lead to the end-stage renal disease by 2 to 3 years of age of the most common type of Finnish. The prognosis is worse in NHPS1 gene mutation compared with the NHPS2 gene mutation. Is different in patient with different. Hello. Prognosis is different in patient with a different ethnic background. Female patient with NHPS mutation have a longer survival than their male counterparts. Kidney transplantation is the only curative treatment in most of the cases. Overall, the result of kidney transplantation in congenital nephrotic syndrome are quite good. The patient's 5-year survival rate is over 90%. And the graft survival rate is more than 80%. The complications commonly occur with these babies are prone for infection with encapsulated organisms such as Haemophilus influenza, E. coli, Streptococcus because of the loss of a complement pathway. Thromboembolic event including central sinus thrombosis, deep vein thrombosis, renal vein thrombosis, and pulmonary embolism. Or there is a failure to thrive, protein malnutrition and vitamin deficiency, and the hypothyroidism. The take-home message from today's talk is, though the congenital nephrotic syndrome is a rare disorder, any baby presenting with NSRK should be evaluated for the same. Genetic testing should be performed as a part of initial evaluation of any congenital nephrotic syndrome. Karyotyping should be done in all possible cases. From genetic counseling of the family with the past history and the prenatal signs of congenital nephrotic syndrome should be done, and the prenatal diagnostic procedure should be offered to them. Parent can be a kidney donor after genetic testing. As I told you, in autonomic dominant cases also, most of the time there is a de novo mutation, and other are the commonest Finnish type is autosomal recessive. So after doing the genetic work of the parents, we can choose them as a kidney donor. Though through interprofessional professional care coordination, like involving of endocrinologists, pediatric nephrologist, neurologist, open communication, and the information sharing, patient will have a better chance of improved outcome. Thank you. Patient did not had any history of oligoatrominose or the polyatrominose. Any queries? Sir, can I stop recording?
കൊടുത്തിട്ടാ